Hello, I'm Tony. I mastermind the YouTube channel Killbot&GorGorAttack. 2016 was a pretty big year for the channel. Lots of exciting things happened. So I'm gonna sit here and talk to you about all the things that happened behind the videos of 2016. You better not go anywhere or I'm gonna hit you in the face with a big purple dildo bat. The first video of 2016 was on the Life is Abuse catalog. I already had most of the collection, so my Christmas money from 2015 went towards getting the rest. When I was getting into underground metal at the ages of 14 and 15, I explored labels that I knew about. Peaceville, Earache, Relapse, Tank Crimes, Life is Abuse. Life is Abuse was important because Dystopia and Brain Oil were on the label. Plus, I enjoyed how dark everything sounded that got released. A cool idea would have been to have Mouse participate somehow, so I emailed him asking if he wanted to do an audio or video commentary on the history of the label and possibly what went into his work. He emailed back and respectfully declined. The label was so much work that I got burnt out running it and hadn't really recovered at that point. I emailed him back with the links to the videos once they were finished and assured him that his work wasn't for nothing.
Ludacra liked my video too. They found the Storytime voice rather humorous.
Some of these albums I had to buy internationally, so they were taking some time to arrive. That meant that I had to keep busy while making this video. The Candy Bar video, my Wedding Crashing song, and the Hot Sauce videos were all filmed while this big video was being made. The song I'd Crash a Wedding for You Baby was written when I was 15, but the original recording was so horrible and awful that I decided to remake it. After all, the concept is pretty cool. I was listening to a lot of Ramones at the time, so that kind of bled into the song. People would later tell me that it sounds like thrash or crossover. Maybe it's a mix of a bunch of different things. The bad drawings were used because everybody liked them so much in the Nile video, and if you look closely, you can find some hidden jokes, like the drunk uncle. Months later, I unleashed a death metal song, Fiend. It was my attempt at recording death metal that was longer than 3 minutes, as I was pretty used to writing short thrash and punk songs. Blushing was a rock song that a neighbor and I recorded when I was 16. We recorded a 7-song demo, and of all of the songs, that was the only salvageable one, so why let it go to waste? In September, just before Mosh Pit and the Pendulum started, I recorded an acoustic cover of Santana's Samba Patai, so that a bare-bones acoustic track can exist. It has a front porch type of sound going on, and I just find the song really relaxing, so it needed to happen. Bringing it back to January, I didn't see any taste testing videos for Dave's at the time, just challenges, so my video had to be about the taste itself. Ghoul's Brain Jerk Hot Sauce video is the same way. Only that time I used my Ghoul mask playing in character while seriously critiquing the sauce. Too many people unfortunately get suckered into bad vinyl pressings. You have to do research before buying records because they could be sourced from CDs and sound absolutely terrible. The Bathory video is there to tell you to do your research and to avoid the black mark vinyl pressings after 1991. Stick with the original pressings for now. The marshmallow usage in the video was added just to be random, but the Tori Amos album was added in to throw everybody way off. The unedited first take of that makes me crack up to this day. In fact, the other joke in the video where I'm talking about the still frame of albums that you need, I also threw in a couple of Ani DeFranco albums, just to be random. I don't actually listen to Ani DeFranco, but I put that in there just to throw everybody way off. I've always liked reading song title mashups. They can be arranged to be clever and tell stories, so I picked a few bands I could do this with and read them off. Everyone liked seeing my posters, so the Cannibal Corpse concert review was cool for showing everyone the set list that I acquired at their show, but I almost got attacked at the show, so I got inspired to make a video on mosh pit etiquette. Simple rules that everyone needs to know. Around this time, I made the GarageBand EQ video, where I take muddy-sounding albums and make them sound brighter just to see what they would sound like. Sometimes I listen to old albums and wonder what they would sound like with the treble boosted. It's a filler video that was made for the sake of being made. There are other filler videos from that period, such as the Walking Slowly in Stores rant, the Batman vs. Superman review, the Raiding Grandma Snacks video. I also consider the Post Office rant a filler video too, unless you want to see the one time a year where I'm genuinely pissed. Ha! I was getting obsessed with Skinny Puppy, and like with Bathory, I found it frustrating having to hunt particular versions of the albums down. Network could fuck up a cup of coffee, so my video on the Skinny Puppy CDs and vinyl was to educate viewers as to what pressings to buy and what to avoid. Metal shirts and the looks you get from wearing them. a favorite amongst viewers. I only show off a small portion of my band shirts, but I love reading the comments. Many viewers share their stories about their shirts and what people do when they see them. Some of these stories are kind of sad, but I have to admit, a lot of them get me cracking up. Even the sad ones, since I'm a sadistic fuck. This was a topic video simply because a lot of people show off their shirts, but it's funny to talk about how people react to them. But I also wanted to address the other side to this, that even if you compliment what somebody is wearing, there is a small chance that the person you are complimenting could be a real tool and not even have the courtesy to smile back. Embrace your fellow brethren, folks. Why you shouldn't stick with one instrument was made because I've been told for years that I should specialize in guitar, bass, or drums. That's just something I've never wanted to do. Multi-instrumentalists can add more to the creative process of any band. I've always thought that musicians like Trent Reznor and Al Jurgensen can do anything they wanted simply because they know enough about their instruments to do so. Black metal Viking raid. I actually do this every time it snows. The neighbors would later tell me that they all sat around their windows and watched while I filmed this. I am sure that my activities amused them to no end on multiple occasions. Plenty of books on the magical tornado of musical destruction known as metal have been made. Books like Swedish Death Metal and Choosing Death are where I obtained a great amount of metal knowledge. I feel like once you read these books and then read about bands on the internet, you can become knowledgeable about the genre. How to Prepare for a Metal Show was created to show that metal shows are a physical and athletic event. You have the ability to show how long you can mosh and how mightily you can bang your head up against a stage or another person's head. People with souls get excited before shows, so most of this stuff is stuff that I actually do. The bolt thrower joke gets funnier and funnier as time goes on, given their breakup since the video. But it can still ring true. Just pull up the Grind Crusher tour shows on a big TV, pretend your living room is a mosh pit, and you can still see bolt thrower, technically. I usually send links to my videos to whoever I think might be interested, including fan pages. One guy replied to the Bathory video with, "Not trying to be a complete dick, but reviewing 30-year-old albums? Try reviewing something newer." Pretty condescending way of putting it, and I feel like he missed the point of the video, which was to avoid the newer pressings of the albums. However, he did have a point. I needed to review something newer. This is where the Iron Reagan video came in. I usually did album reviews with physical copies, but since I was reviewing something newer, I was experimenting with the idea of using the internet to talk about some of the albums. It's great if you like Iron Reagan, but I feel like it's one of my less memorable videos. However, this was the first video where I start using my intro. Short, sweet, and metal as hell. Yeah, all I'm doing is crumpling sheets of paper of Killbot&GorGor, but it was the best I could think of at the time. I was going to see ACCDC in March, but they had to reschedule their tour. Instead of being sad, I made fun of it with what to do if a concert gets canceled. More cheesiness with the old-timey music, an example of a video that didn't get funny until the music was added. Tank Crime's video was a challenge to myself to see how many albums I could talk about in a short amount of time. The day this was released was the day my copyright strike from the Daria video in 2015 was expiring. That meant that I could be as long as I needed to be, but I wanted to keep it as quick pace as possible. 93 albums in an 18-minute video. The video was my way of thanking Tank Crimes for showing me a lot of bands I grew to love. Sometimes I do these videos to give back to my musical communities. Medellin School. Just like with shirts, funny things can happen if you're a fan of the metal while attending the desolate wasteland known as school. I told 3 of my best school stories, stuff that happened in high school. Maybe later I'll do a part 2 of the things that happened in college.
My voice at the beginning, it's a cross between George H.W. Bush and Mr. Rogers. It made me sound creepy, but it seems to be a main attraction amongst viewers. Heh.
I have my own system for transferring records and removing the noise, so I wanted to share that. My channel should be educational as well as entertaining. Maybe the Audacity record transferring video isn't for the primary audience, but there does exist an audience for it. That's the mindset that you need to have if you are an entertainer. What you are making might not appeal to your primary audience, but there is an audience somewhere that can find value in what you do as long as you do it right. Similarly, I knew that my video on hating holidays would get criticism from the conformists. I also knew that the people who watch my videos just for the musical content might not get much out of it, but I knew that there was an audience for it. If I can provide comfort with my thoughts to anyone in general, then I've done my job. You see, I have the Bill Hicks mindset. If I'm not going to be funny, then I'm going to at least try to be interesting. Speaking of funny and stupid, splicing metal into pop songs, it's just a trick that I use occasionally. Maybe somebody will copycat it. If I have to suffer with pop songs, then I have to make fun of them somehow. That intro with the old-timey bike ride to the gnarly cave, it's there for no reason other than to be stupid. Playing guitar riffs backwards. I was looking at guitar tabs for Queens of the Stone Age, and I came across a Reddit post mentioning that they sometimes play their riffs backwards just to hear what they sound like. I thought it was a good practice idea, so maybe it could be used to improve the skills of other guitar players as well as myself. Origen, the fastest band in the world. They're one of my favorite bands, and they deserved a video. It took 3 days to make. The cemetery I went to was empty that day, so I wanted to do something with it. If you look at the gravestone, my hopes died one day and my dreams died the next day. Ha ha ha! Nile made me insane with Annihilation of the Wicked, so imagine what Origen could do. I also love the antithesis portion where I run with the joke for a minute. It builds up nicely. Grind Gore. Not all gore grind sounds like Carcass. The discussion portion of this video was easy to shoot. All I had to do was listen to gore grind demos, take notes on them, and discuss how they were different from Carcass. It took 2 weeks to get the notes that I needed. Meanwhile, I was busy writing the song Ripping the Cancer and shooting its music video. I found this abandoned trailer with tires, broken glass, and burned objects everywhere. For the exploitation film aesthetic that I was going for, this trailer was perfect. It wasn't exactly safe though. The grass was really high, bees were everywhere, and lots of nails were sticking up from all over the place. I am very fortunate that I didn't step on any of them and have to go to the hospital. I went to 3 bands and asked a few questions to each of them about how they define gore grind, as well as how big of an influence Carcass or any other bands might be on their music. Dead Infection was the first band I've interviewed, but their drummer responded weeks after the video was finished, so it wasn't used. Maybe I'll use it for something someday. Carnal Diaphragma was the first to answer, but I made the mistake of spelling the band's name wrong. It's supposed to be spelled with an F and not a PH. David noticed this, but he laughed about it. And so did I. When I went to see Carcass in 2014, it ruined other gore grind bands for me. I was obsessed with Hemorrhage for the longest time, but after seeing Carcass, I only wanted to listen to the innovators of gore grind and not anybody that followed. I wanted to get back into gore grind after remembering how much I enjoyed Hemorrhage. So this gave me the idea to differentiate the gore grind bands from each other to prove to myself that they can sound different. At this point, some have called me the Weird Al of metal, so why not make a Weird Al-styled parody of classic metal? In comes Chomped in Half, an obituary parodied song about being eaten by giant alligators. No comment here. I made the metal ASMR video after watching Grade A Under A's video about ASMR videos. People keep saying that I should have destroyed a different CD because apparently the Bruno Mars album that I destroyed was good. What? I'm very selective about what I watch, so I didn't even know about most of the metal channels on YouTube until the middle of 2016. I haven't even heard of Black Metal Werewolf until late May. Only in September did I finally look at his videos and notice that he made a metal ASMR video a couple months before I did. It's a good thing that I made mine differently, because that was a complete accident. I would have made the video whether I'd known about his or not, because after all, mine has chainsaws and Voivod. Totally different take on the subject, man. Voivod gave me permission to use their song in the video. I explained that I would use it to relax with. They said, I don't know what you mean by relaxing with this song, but go ahead and try. Scream Bloody Gore vs. Seven Churches. These are iconic albums. I used to always think about them and wonder which album was the first death metal album truly. But pondering the question became confusing, so I stopped thinking about it after a while. But when Scream Bloody Gore was re-released by Relapse, I thought it would be a good idea to explore the question again. It took multiple listens of 7 chickens to come up with the ideas. Of course, I primarily focused on these 2 albums because these 2 albums are the ones that always seem to pop up whenever you bring up the discussion, what was the first death metal album? Of course, other people will name Two Megatherion and Morbid Visions, but, I digress. The feedback was amazing! Many disagreed, many agreed, and many named other albums, such as Two Megatherion and Morbid Visions. Some people even mentioned Season of the Dead by Necrophagia, so I did a Mosh Pin the Pendulum video to address that. Eric Med, who was in the 1985 lineup of some death demos, even commented. After all this time, I still feel like Seven Churches was the first death metal album, but at least I can now understand why others may feel differently. Now, I would like to take this time to clear the air and address some criticism, because I know what a lot of you are thinking. You said Sepultura wrong! You know, for the longest time, I thought it was pronounced Sepultura, and this is because there is an Asunder song called Whited Sepulture. So I thought that all you had to do was add the at the end, Sepultura. But apparently it's Sepultura. You know, people used to say that to me at shows, and I'd be like, man, why the hell are you saying it with so many syllables? But apparently, that's the way it's pronounced. So, okay, I will say it correctly from now on. Sepultura! And the other thing, Celtic Frost and Celtic Frost. Yeah, that was just plain ignorance. Actually, I watched a couple foreign movies where they pronounce it Celtic, so I thought that was how it was pronounced for the longest time, but apparently it's Celtic. My dumb ass. After that gnarly discussion topic, 2 Nine Inch Nails vinyl reviews followed, Year Zero and With Teeth respectively. This is because I just got the records, and I've wanted them for years. The only videos I could find on these vinyl albums at the time were either recorded with toasters or in a different language, so I had to translate it to be gnarly. Decorate Your Room with Metal and Punk was an easy, straightforward video to make. Many people talk about their posters and shirts, but why not give some instructions on how to find some of these said posters, as well as how to apply them? And books of the metal. They should be on your shelf. Stick around for part 2 and I'll cover the rest of the videos for 2016. See you there.